Hi, everybody. Happy to be here with you. Let's start with a hello. I have the actual bell, nothing crazy. It's going to make a nice sound, which is great. So let's start with about a minute of mindful breathing. So it may have been a while since you practiced mindfulness. Maybe not. Maybe you've been all over it, which is awesome. So I'll just remind you, when we practice our mindful breathing, you might think about your anchor spot that you've chosen, right? Like your nose or your chest or your tummy. Or you might use some words in your mind, like breathing in, breathing out. Or if you'd prefer, you could always do mindful listening instead during this time. So you decide what you want to do, and let's do it together for about a minute. All right? So will you be in your mindful body? And just like always, letting your body get really still and closing your eyes if it's comfortable. And we'll do about a minute. That sound is so much better than any of those crazy sounds that I made at my house. Those were terrible. All right, so take a moment to notice how you feel and think about in your mind, if while we were away from school, if you practiced mindfulness, or if you kind of forgot about it a little bit. Because, we're wrapping up our time together. So I'll only see you just one or two more times. But what's really cool about mindfulness is that you can practice it anytime you want to. You don't need me anymore because you've practiced it and you've learned it and you kind of know what you're doing. You guys are like experts a little bit now in mindfulness. And you can practice it anytime you want to. And you guys know, if you think about all the things that we've practiced in mindfulness, there's so many choices for you to make about what you want to do mindfully. And you kind of know too that you're being mindful anytime you're just paying attention to what's going on right now. So if you kind of think back over, the last semester, we've thought about and we've practiced mindful breathing, right? Just like we did just now. So you can obviously do that anytime you want to. And then we've practiced mindful listening, which has been pretty great, I think. I like to do mindful listening outside, but I know it's winter, so we may not always get a good chance to do it outside. But, you can practice mindful listening anywhere, anytime that you want to. And we practiced heartfulness. Remember, that's like the sending kind thoughts. We practice sending kind thoughts to other people or to ourselves. That's one that I like to do at bedtime. Pretty much every night I remember to do it. And I always send kind thoughts to my Hazel and my husband, Mr. Williams, and my dog every night. And then I also send kind thoughts to myself too. So those don't have to be anything fancy. I always just send happiness and health and that kind of thing. So that's something that you can practice, again, anytime you want to, sending kind thoughts to other people. Remember, we also practiced being generous. There was the week that I brought you in your class the smaller bell, and I was trying to practice being generous to you. And you guys have been so generous to me. You guys have always been so kind to me and so welcoming. So that's been a really generous thing that you have done for me, which I appreciate so much. But remember, when we practice being generous, it doesn't have to be anything fancy or big. And it doesn't even have to be a thing that you give somebody. Like, it can be a nice, like a compliment, right? Just something nice that you say to somebody else. That's you being generous. You smiling at someone is being generous to them. Letting somebody go ahead of you in line is being generous. So small stuff. So you can always practice that at school or at home. Even if you don't feel like you have things to give, like physical things, you can still give like kindness and that kind of thing, which is cool. We've practiced, remember, mindfulness on the playground. And we talked about those times when we might feel angry on the playground. Like if somebody says a mean thing to us or even like hurts us in some way. And if you remember, when we practiced that, we talked about taking the 3 deep breaths if we were feeling really angry. So that's something that I'm going to challenge you to practice on the playground through the rest of the school year, is when you get into those situations where you're feeling kind of angry, like you might want to say something mean or do something mean, try to remind yourself to take the 3 deep breaths and see if that can help you maybe make a better choice before you do something that you might wish you hadn't done later, right? Which we all do, and that's okay. We can't do it right every time, right? We just got to keep trying to do it right. And then let's see. Oh, mindful movement, right? We practiced that. Remember, we did like the raising your hand and then bringing your hand back down really slowly. And we practiced like standing up and sitting back down really slowly. So you can certainly practice mindful movement anytime you want to. You might think about it like next time you're playing a sport. You might just think about it and notice it. You could do it like at home if you're, getting in the bath or getting in bed or squeezing your stuffy or whatever. So any movement that you're doing, even right now, you could like be holding your pencil and just like paying attention to what it feels like to hold it. So anything that you do movement-wise, any kind of movement, you can do mindfully by just noticing it. And then this week, when I see you, if I haven't seen you yet, we're practicing mindful eating, which is, to me, one of the most fun things to do mindfully, because, who doesn't want to eat, especially during school, get like a little snack. So that's something that you can practice, again, anytime that you're eating. So school lunch or at home or having a snack, you just kind of pause and pay attention to it and maybe sniff it. I like to sniff what I'm eating anyway. So, sniff it and see what it feels like, see what it tastes like, and just notice how your body reacts to you eating it. So those were the ones that I thought of, right, that we practiced together quite a bit. I know I'm missing some. But I guess my challenge to you is just to practice those on your own. So one thing you guys might do is work together as a class, since you've all practiced mindfulness together and with your teacher, and just remind each other. Maybe like get your bell out sometimes and do a little bit of practice together, or just remind your friends, like if you see somebody, feeling angry on the playground, you could remind them about their 3 deep breaths. You could just remind somebody like in PE, like, oh, hey, do some mindful movement, next time you dribble that ball or whatever. So remind each other, and I hope that you can enjoy doing it, and I hope that you will do it some other times on your own and together. Again, I really have been so impressed with how generous you guys have been to me. You've been so kind and so welcoming. You've made me feel like so great every time I come. So thank you so much for that. You guys have been very, very generous to me. And it's been awesome. I've never taught fourth graders anything before until this year, and it was really, really cool. So thank you for listening and paying attention and practicing mindfulness with me, because it was pretty great. All right, so let's do just one more listening to the bell for our goodbye. And you can raise your hand when you don't hear it anymore, and that will be our goodbye for today. But I will see you again next week, okay? One more time. All right, so will you get back into your mindful body?